What's up, traders? All right, if you've been using version 2.8 of the premium CCT indicator, pay attention because version 3.5 just changed the game. This is not a small update. This is a complete overhaul. And a lot of what's in here came directly from your comments and DMs. Multiple POI levels, you asked, it's here. As many levels as form on your chart, all tracked simultaneously. Fair value gaps, built right in with full customization. Turtle soup entries, a completely new way to enter setups. 4 different C3 confirmation modes, so you can match the indicator to your trading style. And now the indicator actually tracks whether your trades hit TP or SL right on the chart. I'm going to walk you through all of it, every feature, every setting, and I'll give you my personal configurations at the end. And real quick, a lot of you in the community have been asking for a discount, so to celebrate this V3.5 launch, we're doing 30% off until February 5th. The code is CCT30. This works on everything we offer: the premium CCT indicator, the MT5 trading bot, and our monthly signal subscription. Just head to our official website, thedtctools.com, enter the code at checkout, and you're set. If you're new here, watch the 2.8 tutorial first. Links in the description. That covers the core strategy. Today is all about what's new. Let's get into it. The first major change you'll notice is this new setting right here, setup type. In version 2.8, we only had one type of setup, the POI setup. Now in 3.5, you have 3 options: POI only, TS only, or both. POI only is the original behavior you're familiar with. The indicator looks for the high or low of the candle that got swept. That's your HTF bracket 2 candle, and uses that as your point of interest level. TS stands for turtle soup. This is a completely different entry concept. Instead of using the swept level, the turtle soup setup uses the opposite extreme of the setup candle itself. So for a bullish setup, while POI uses the high that got broken, turtle soup uses the low of that breakout candle as your entry level. Let me show you on the chart. See this bullish setup here? The blue line is your POI. That's the high that got swept. But this purple line down here, that's the turtle soup level, the low of the setup candle. And if you select both, the indicator tracks both setups simultaneously. You'll see both the POI line and the TS line, each with their own conditions, their own entry signals, their own TP and SL levels. I personally run it on both most of the time because it gives me options. If POI triggers first, great. If TS triggers first, that's also a valid entry. You can see here, the POI is in blue, the TS is in purple. Each one tracks its own C1, C2, C3 conditions independently. Okay, this next feature is probably the one I'm most excited about: multiple POI detection. In version 2.8, you could only track one POI level, the most recent one. But think about it. What if price broke through multiple historical levels? Those are all potential points of interest, right? Now you have 2 new settings: POI lookback. This tells the indicator how many HTF candles to look back for untouched levels. I have it set to 25 here. And max POI count. This controls how many POI levels to display at once. You can set this as low as 1 if you want the old behavior, or crank it up if you want to see every level that forms. It's completely up to your preference. Look at this chart now. Instead of one POI line, we have multiple levels being tracked: POI 1, POI 2, POI 3. Each one is a historical high or low that price swept through and never came back to touch. Notice how each line is labeled: POI 1, POI 2, POI 3. And look at the condition tracking. Each POI has its own bracket showing which conditions are met. If a condition is met, it shows its number like 1, 2, or 3. If they are not met, it shows a... Here's something subtle but important. See how each POI line starts from a different point on the chart? That's because each line begins at its source candle, the candle where that level came from. This helps you visually see how old each level is. The info table now shows you a summary: POIs found, and then active, triggered, and rejected counts. So at a glance, you know exactly what's happening across all your POI levels. Here's where this gets powerful: confluence. When you see multiple POIs stacked close together like this, that's a strong zone. The more levels that cluster, the more significant that area becomes. And when one POI triggers an entry, the others keep tracking. So if your first entry gets stopped out, you might get another entry at a deeper POI level. All right, let's talk about the biggest visual change in version 3.5, the built-in fair value gap system. Fair value gaps, or FVGs, are now fully integrated into the indicator. Let me walk you through the settings first, then show you how it all works. First, for anyone who doesn't know, what is a fair value gap? An FVG is an imbalance in price. It happens when a candle moves so aggressively that it creates a gap between the candle before it and the candle after it. Look at these three candles. For a bullish FVG, also called a gap up, the high of candle 1 is below the low of candle 3. That space in between, that's your fair value gap. Price moves so fast that it left an imbalance. Bearish FVG is the opposite, a gap down. The low of candle 1 is above the high of candle 3. In the settings, you can turn FVGs on or off with this toggle. I recommend keeping them on. You've got three color themes. Dark works great on dark chart backgrounds, subtle colors that don't overpower your chart. Light theme for light backgrounds. And custom if you want to pick your own exact colors. This midline option draws a dashed line at the 50% level of each FVG. A lot of traders watch for reactions at the midpoint, so this is useful. Extend right controls how far the FVG box stretches into the future. I keep this around 5 to 10 bars, enough to see it clearly without cluttering the chart. And this min size filter lets you ignore tiny FVGs. If you only want to see significant gaps, set this to maybe 10 or 20 ticks. 0 shows everything. Now let's talk about mitigation. When price comes back and closes through an FVG, we say it's been mitigated, the imbalance is filled. Watch what happens when price mitigates this FVG. See how it changes to gray? The indicator tracks this automatically. You have two options here. Show mitigated keeps the FVG visible, but changes its color to gray. This lets you see the history of what's been filled. Or you can enable delete mitigated, which removes FVG boxes entirely once they're filled. This keeps your chart cleaner. I personally keep show mitigated on and delete off. I like seeing the full picture. Here's where FVGs tie directly into your entry logic. And this leads us to the next major feature. The C3 condition, the momentum confirmation, can now be based on FVGs instead of just candle highs and lows. Let me show you exactly how this works. In version 2.8, C3 was simple. For a bullish setup, price had to close above the retracement high. That's it, one option. In version 3.5, you now have 4 different C3 modes. Let me break down each one. Mode 1, candle high / low. This is identical to version 2.8 behavior. For bullish, C3 triggers when price closes above the highest point during the retracement. Simple, straightforward. Mode 2, FVG. This is brand new. For a bullish setup, C3 now requires price to close above the lowest bearish FVG's high. Think about what this means. During the retracement, bearish FVGs form as price drops. These represent selling pressure. When price closes above one of those FVGs, it's reclaiming that imbalance, showing that buyers have absorbed the selling. See this bearish FVG that formed during the pullback? C3 triggers right here when this candle closes above it. Mode 3, either. This triggers C3 when either the candle condition or the FVG condition is met, whichever comes first. This gives you faster entries. If price closes above the retracement high before touching the FVG, you still get your signal. Mode 4, both. This is the most conservative. C3 only triggers when both conditions are satisfied. Price must close above the retracement high and close above the relevant FVG. Fewer signals, but higher quality confirmation. Next up, take profit modes. In version 2.8, TP was always dynamic. It was set at the highest or lowest price reached before your entry triggered. That's still an option, but now you have another choice. Dynamic mode works exactly like before. The TP line adjusts in real time as price makes new highs or lows before your entry. Once you enter, it locks in. Fixed RR mode lets you set a specific risk to reward ratio for your take profit. So if I set this to 2.0, my TP will always be placed at exactly 2 times my risk distance. If my stop loss is 20 pips away, my TP is automatically set at 40 pips. Look at the difference. With dynamic, my TP is way up here at the swing high. With fixed RR at 2.0, my TP is closer but guaranteed to give me a 2R trade if it hits. Why use fixed RR? Consistency. If you're backtesting or journaling with strict R multiples, this keeps everything uniform. Notice the TP label now shows the RR ratio, so you always know which mode you're in. All right, quick one here, but really useful. You can now choose how entry signals appear on your chart. Label is the original, a full box with direction, setup type, and R to R ratio. Informative, but it can obstruct your view of price action. Arrow gives you a cleaner look. Just a small arrow with the R to R number, much less cluttered. Line draws a horizontal line at your entry price that extends to the right. Great for seeing exactly where you got in without blocking candles. Dot is ultra minimal, just a small circle marking the entry point. Perfect if you want maximum chart visibility. And none removes entry markers entirely. Use this if you're placing trades manually and don't need the visual. I personally switch between arrow and line depending on what I'm doing. For recording videos, I use label so you can see the details. For actual trading, arrow keeps things clean. This is a small but satisfying addition. Version 3.5 now tracks trade outcomes. Once an entry triggers, the indicator monitors whether price hits your TP or your SL. When TP is hit, the entry label turns green and shows TP check. The POI line also changes to lime green. Visually, you immediately know this was a winning trade. And when SL is hit, everything turns red with SL cross. No confusion about what happened. The info table has been completely redesigned. You now have two modes, compact and full. Compact gives you the essentials: trend, POI level, condition status, and current R to R, clean and minimal. Full mode shows everything: all POI stats, all TS stats, FVG counts, every condition broken down separately. Use this when you're learning or debugging your setups. Notice these new rows. POIs found shows how many levels are being tracked. Active, triggered, rejected gives you the breakdown. FVG section shows bullish and bearish gap counts plus how many have been mitigated. One more visual option, label style. Solid gives you traditional opaque labels. Subtle makes them semi-transparent so they don't block as much of the chart. I prefer subtle for cleaner visuals. And here's a nice touch. The POI and TS labels now show condition progress in brackets. This shows bracket 1, 2, dash dash, meaning C1 and C2 are met, C3 is pending. At a glance, you know exactly where each setup stands. All right, let's recap everything new in version 3.5. Setup type selection: POI, turtle soup, or both. Multiple POI detection: track as many historical levels as form on your chart. Built-in FVG system with full customization and mitigation tracking. 4 C3 condition modes: candle, FVG, either or both. Take profit modes: dynamic or fixed risk reward. 5 entry display styles, from full labels to minimal dots. Trade outcome tracking: see your wins and losses right on the chart. And a completely redesigned info table with compact and full modes. Now, I mentioned this at the beginning, but let me give you all the details. A lot of you in the community have been asking for a discount, so to celebrate this V3.5 launch, we're doing 30% off until February 5th. The code is CCT30. This works on everything we offer: the premium CCT indicator, the MT5 trading bot, and our monthly signals subscription. Just head to our official website, thedtctools.com, enter the code at checkout, and you're set. I'll put the link in the description and pin a comment with the code. But remember, February 5th is the cutoff. After that, it's back to full price. This update took a lot of work, and I really think it makes the indicator significantly more powerful and flexible. If you're new and want to understand the core CCT strategy, go watch the version 2.8 tutorial first. I'll link it in the description and the cards. If you found this helpful, smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and drop a comment letting me know which new feature you're most excited about. I'll see you in the next one. Trade safe.